but our TTC workers were the only transit workers in Canada who were banned from striking. So the local fought back in the courts and won back the right to strike after about 10 years or so, 9 years battle, if my memory is correct. Is it, Marvin? Yes. And with 12,000 members, Local 113 knew this wasn't going to be an easy fight. So the local, with assistance from the international, we launched an unprecedented Unite to Win campaign to mobilize members. Right, 113? So I went out there and I was on the ground in Toronto as the local prepared, and I saw firsthand the solidarity and the strength in the locals' membership in this fight. I was pretty amazed. They were holding meetings, training. I went to the training center. I think I went to the garage. With Marvin, and it was just wow. And our staff was out there, organizers, and there was a team. And like anything else, build it and they will come. So we did that. And then in the last few hours before our members were going to go on strike, so we did this strike. And they're going to talk about it, practice pickets outside showing, and it brought a lot of press, it brought a lot of support from the communities. And when they were set to strike, the local reached out and they got a deal. And it was ratified with the membership after a few weeks late after we were doing these campaigns. And this campaign showed the power of the ATU. It was amazing what I saw out there. And as I said, they had a committee. They had a strike committee. And you'll see the strike committee. I asked them when I was at ATU Canada, and I spoke. I invited them to come to the convention. I wanted them to talk about this campaign, how impressive it was. And I always say Jesus had 12. So, you know what I'm saying? So I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear you can't do it. You can do it. So with that, I'd like to bring up Marvin. You want to come up? President of Local Marvin Alfred of 113. He's going to fill you in about this campaign, and then we'll have a panel discussion with the Local 113 contract campaign committee members, and that will be led by the director of our campaigns, Justin Panels. Oh, they want a video first. All right, Marvin, you can still come up, right? Let's do the video.
In 2011, the provincial government took away our right to strike. After a decade of fighting in the courts, ATU 113 won back a right to strike in May 2023. Later that year, we started asking our members to share their proposals for our looming contract negotiations in 2024. Our bargaining committee analyzed the hundreds of proposals received over a few weeks and found the recurring themes of dignity and respect for our work. In early 2024, we began our United to Win campaign for a fair and decent contract, and activated our steering committee with the goal of building a credible strike threat. Initial training for the 200+ member steering committee was followed by the activation of our job action committee, and included brainstorming for escalating actions to build pressure on the TTC and engage members. A petition with 8,000+ signatures and 8,000 United to Win buttons across work locations showed broad support for the campaign. Nearly 15,000 solidarity letters continued to build pressure. The historic April strike vote was testament to the unity and determination of members, with over 9,000 members voting and 98% in favor of striking. This was the highest turnout for a strike vote in the Amalgamated Transit Union's history. The Job Action Committee recruited and ensured training for over 250 picket captains, and by May, over 9,300 members enrolled for strike duty. By late May, we won a legal appeal on our right to strike and set our strike date for the earliest date we could, June 7th. Practice pickets at Wilson and Hillcrest to give a glimpse of what was to come. With the strike deadline approaching and little progress in negotiations, the Job Action Committee mobilized to be strike ready, and a morning press conference was held on June 6th to reaffirm that ATU 113 would strike at midnight. Throughout this process, we shared our stories with the media on the issues we face in public transit. We deputed before the TTC board, wrote letters to the city and the TTC. We engaged our allies in labor as well as transit riders advocacy groups and community organizations who came out in strong support. The unity, solidarity, and hard work of our members paid off, and the company had to concede to our fair demands. We won a great contract, checking boxes on our key priorities and setting a new standard for workers in the country. The source of our power is in our members. Now we are ready for whatever comes next.
Good afternoon, sisters and brothers. Thank you for that. I want to thank the ATU International. I want to thank President Costa. Thank you for the resources available in order to assist us in providing that mandate, and that Job Action Committee action was priceless. Most of what I was going to say was kind of up on the screen where President Costa said it, but I'm going to still talk. I think it's important to give some clarity into some of the things that happened with us during that time. So I'll introduce myself. I'm Marvin Alfred, President of Local 113 in Toronto. Let me introduce some of my bargaining team members. Vice President Angie Clark. ABA Frank Malta. ABA Tony Milio. Board member Mike Judd. And board member Claudio Cappadocia. And if you'd indulge me, if the ATU Local 113 board members that are not on stage, please stand up. Board members, stand up. And then the rest of the delegation, stand up who we're fighting for. Everybody stand up from Local 113. Again, this would not have been possible to happen with our strength, with leadership from all angles supporting us. Again, I want to thank the International. I want to thank the organizers. I want to thank President Costa. When I made the call for assistance, he was there. We bargained the contract, but the capacity to bargain a contract to successful takes from having allies, takes from having people help you authentically. And Local 113, we appreciate that. So again, I want to thank President Costa and the team for the International for when we reached out that we were there to help. We really appreciate that. With all the things that we learned, to be able to take that in order to build and lead and move on, we really appreciate that. Thank you again, President Costa. I know it was mentioned already that we lost the right to strike 10 years ago, but that's only part of the problem. When we lost that right to strike, it was actually government, sometimes perceived as somewhat labor sympathetic government. This was, I think, the Liberal Party that actually put a bill in place to take the right to strike away from labor, which is always wrong. It's shameful to do that. It's shameful to even propose a bill like that, but it happened. It can happen anywhere. We feel what's happening in the States. I know you're feeling it to a greater degree, but again, being in Canada, we're not sheltered from the bullshit. We need to make sure that you stand up, provide support to labor-friendly candidates. Hold them accountable or get rid of them. You must do that, or you're asleep at the switch. Losing the right to strike affected every aspect of labor relations in our local. It wasn't just collective bargaining. What happened to us is anytime there was an impasse or any sort of negotiations of anything, even a grievance or a working condition or policy, they would send it to arbitration. And that's great for a government because they've got the endless taxpayers' money, but we have our precious members' dues, which we respect when we spend it. We spent, before our right to strike was returned, over $7 million a year in labor relations dealing with arbitrations and grievances. This is something that we should not let happen. So we are again mentioning to a lot of members, and we mentioned it at Can-Am, we must provide for ourselves by making sure those are the people in power, whether it's state, provincial, or federal government, need to make sure they respect labor. Because if you don't respect us, we will get rid of you. So before 2024, the way that the last ways that our contracts were resolved was through interest arbitration, which allows some dummy, to provide him determining what I'm worth, what we're worth. Nobody, unless you're at the table, actually knows what we're trying to do and negotiate. I want the right to remove my labor as a mechanism of negotiating. I want that threat in order to stand up on a picket line and shout and scream and make sure you hear me and make sure we're going to fight for the dignity of our job. No court should be able to take that away from us. And we were proud that we won that right to strike back, but it didn't end there. The Doug Ford government then appealed our right to strike win. And guess what? We had to kick his ass in court again. We not only won the right to strike back once, we won it again in the appellate court, and Doug Ford, the provincial government, had to provide over $600,000 to us in damages for legal costs. And it was beautiful to have the government pay labor. So back to the agenda at hand. Our bylaws provided a job action committee an opportunity to organize and mobilize our rank and file members to assist the executive board in order to help mobilize our members. We were able to get a number of members and leaders within our union to help us provide that, and we gave direction as an executive board in order to have a campaign and a mandate. And I would tell you, it's not always easy. Because when we had a plan and being out there, that sometimes within our own local, within other union allies, people made fun of us. Because when we did things, something as simple as practice pickets. Why are you paying people to walk in circles for practice? Well, you know what it was? We were building up media content and a threat and a campaign to show them what's going to happen. And ironically, a number of the people that actually laughed at us and mocked us within our local or outside of our local, actually some of them turned around and actually implemented the same things and duplicated us, and we took that as a compliment. That, imitation is flattery, and we take that on. But again, we had the courage in order to do the right thing. Whether people believed in us or not, doing the right thing is always the right thing to do. And we did what we could in order to help provide for our members. But again, our membership had not had any sort of real experience striking for so long. So we had to go out there and help educate our members. And our job action committee, who will speak for themselves, but I just want to make sure that we had to build that capacity. Because most of our members were under 7 or 8 years on the job. So we hadn't had the right to strike for over 10 years. So a lot of them didn't know or understand and appreciate that you have to have that risk and that threat of a strike to have that value in order to negotiate. They're going to give you nothing. Unless you're willing to fight for it, you're not getting anything. So thank you to our Job Action Committee for making sure that they assisted the Job Action Committee assisted the Executive Board to give the Executive Board and the bargaining team the opportunity and the capacity to truly focus on what we're mandated supposed to do, which is to sit down with the employer and negotiate. 24 hours a day and do whatever's needed in order to make sure we provide the best for our members. And it was close. We didn't get a deal until the 11th hour. And at that 11th hour, we were making phone calls and we had our labor allies putting pressure on the city, the mayor, to come back to the employer in order to utilize that pressure. That when we had a job action committee that engaged the membership and got us a 98% strike mandate from our members. 98%. And I think that mandate was done in less than 24 hours. And I think we had about, 9,000 members out of 12,000 participate in that mandate. Our members were so jazzed up to go on strike. Some of them were actually disappointed when we actually got a deal because they had all that pent-up energy. They wanted to strike for the sake of striking. What does that tell you? The energy is there. The anger is there, and the time to change, the time to fight is right now. Our members are mobilized, but guess what? The fight's not over. No matter what kind of success we had, and whatever we did in order to build industry standards and victories for our wages, working conditions, and other benefits, we fought off privatization. We fought off and actually got them to negotiate jobs back to us. They contracted out some of our jobs, and at City Hall, when there's a right-wing infrastructure, rejected bringing some of our jobs back. With our Job Action Committee, with our bargaining team, with our rank and file members so mobilized that we actually got them to negotiate to bring jobs back to us. It was a fight itself. So I want to come back to one important point, though, for this Job Action Committee, is I'm proud of them supporting the Executive Board and the Executive Board supporting them, because that trust, that fidelity, that energy, and that mandate and being able to have that support of each other is the only way it's possible. Having those meetings, but also that investment. It was expensive, but it wasn't a cost, it was an investment. Invest in your future. Invest in political action. Have the capacity and the courage to tell your members that this is what it takes to fight. If you're afraid to get your members off work or to mobilize, you're in the wrong game. If you as leaders in your locals cannot mobilize and get your members to understand that we're taking these people off or we're organizing these individuals to help fight for your contract, then who are you? You need to be able to get your members out. Political action. Political action just doesn't start when there's an election called. It starts the day the election's over, that you're mobilizing and holding people accountable. You hold me accountable, you hold us accountable, hold yourselves accountable to make sure you fight for them. You fight for your contracts, you fight to keep politicians in check, and you fight to deliver for your members. So I want to thank you all. And I'll leave the microphone for a few of my sisters and brothers behind me if they wanted to talk about anything. Anybody want to add anything?
Hello, I'm Angie Clark. I'd like to point this out. The only woman on the board for Local 113. Want to get shit done? All right. So the contract, it was actually my first contract negotiation, and I could say I was very proud to be a part of it. And with the amazing team we had on our board, we contracted amazing benefits. What we had capped off for glasses, other things where it's a cap off in Canada, they said, we're not giving you any more, so we took it for our pensioners. We left nothing on the table, sorry. That's about all I want to say. Thank you all for having us, and thanks to these amazing people here. ATU.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Frank Maltese, Assistant Business Agent Transportation for 113. Yes, as Barbara captured a lot of stuff, and Angie and then Tony on the Assistant Business Agent meetings will add a little more further comments to it. Last round that we had negotiated settlement was 2014. We were deemed essential. I was on that bargaining committee at that time. The last couple rounds after that, to Marvin's point, arbitration, see you later, arbitrator didn't give us really anything, and there's a few people in the room, whether they're sergeant at arms or IVPs that are involved in all that, and arbitration doesn't solve anything. This time, when we had the right to strike back, we really made some tremendous gains. We made some tremendous gains. We had the momentum, we had the power. The Job Action Committee supported us with that and led the employer at that, because it was a different round of bargaining. This time when they came to the table, yes, they kind of played tough, but they also knew there was a big, big threat behind them. And we were able to achieve some pretty good allowances and monetary contracts. Although we got good numbers in our wage increases, allowances allowed for huge gains that add on top of that. That's a lot of money that's hidden in there, and we're able to improve on those. Anyways, I want to leave some time for Tony, Assistant Business Agent Maintenance. Thank you. And you'll hear some more from the party.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I was part of the maintenance side of the bargaining team. It was Michael Judd, myself, and recently retired Scott Gordon. So, because of the Job Action Committee, it allowed us to focus on bargaining. It allowed the rest of our board to deal with the business of the local. And because of that, in my 28 years and in Scott's 42 years, we've never had a contract like this. So the one thing I do want to say is because of the Job Action Committee, our voice and our power was heard and echoed across Canada because of it.
I'm sorry, I know Tony introduced this bargaining committee. Claudio Cappadoci, my board member at large in transportation, was also on the bargaining committee. I don't want to hear it, and the rest of the guys over there from the delegation.
One last thing I would tell you about messaging though. People took it as a joke, but at the 11th hour, the day leading up to the deadline for a strike, we had them deliver on the agency, the TTC, their property, burn barrels, wood, water, and porta potties. I would tell you, the message that sent to let them know we're ready, it's not a joke. Spend that money, send that message that you're not walking back, you're gonna fight, you're gonna win. Our voice, our power is for real. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Not going nowhere either, Mike. I just want to thank these guys. They did a fantastic job. So that weekend as a bargaining committee, we're able to focus on management style. We dissected what they were thinking because we didn't have to worry about our membership. And the only thing I can say about this committee here is they brought our membership right to the peak of going on strike, where we had a difficult time at that point to walk them back because we knew we had a good contract and we wanted to make sure that it was ratified, but these guys did a fantastic job to bring them right to the peak to walk out. Applaud to them for what we got.
Good afternoon, sisters and brothers. I just want to say thank you to the Job Action Committee. I've been in 2 rounds of bargaining. First one was through interest arbitration. Everything went to interest arbitration. These guys hit the pavement, 12,500 members every shift, no off days. They hit the pavement running, and they got the members behind us. We could feel it at the bargaining table. Thank you, miigwech.
So, where's your financial secretary, Mario? Mario, put mic 1 on. What would this strike would have cost us if we, the international, if you guys went out? Go to mic 2.
I wasn't the secretary treasurer at that time, but I believe it was going to be about $2 million a week. And it's the number it would have cost us was $12,500.
All right, but John, Canino, what was it going to cost us? Get there.
Let me just round it off to $5 million a week.
So $5 million a week it would have cost us, right? Probably would have wiped, KK. Probably pretty much would have wiped our damn fund out, right? Oh, so we would assess them, which would have pissed off a lot of people. So what did we do? Our team got together, our department got together and said, nah, you're not going on strike right now. We're going to plan and we're going to strategize, make sure we're going to go on strike. I want to make sure we have the power. You're dealing with 12,000 members, right? It's easy to vote and say I'm going to go on strike, and then you go on strike. And the first day feels good, because it fucking feels good to fight back, doesn't it, guys? Look at this. Does it feel good to fight back? You know, and I've been on strike lines. I've been in charge of strike lines, and first week is fun. Second week, all right, you might get your second paycheck in a hole. But then after that, it starts getting a little shady out there, getting a little nervous out there. We're gonna hold this line. So I think what I saw and was so impressed, and why I invited everybody here, because you could see how much fighting back feels good, right? And I saw that in ATU Canada, so I asked them to come up. And Marvin did a great job holding it together, preparing for this. And like you said, the final hour, 11 o'clock, I remember getting a phone call. Manny Swarza was the international vice president. Where's Manny? Get over here, Manny. Not in Mike, Manny. How bad was it? Or how good was it, I should say?
Thank you, President Costa. It was very interesting bargaining. We had a plan to get everything done by a certain timeline. Everything was going well. And then a certain CEO at the TTC that our friends from Boston send our way, Rick Leary, decided that he was going to go backwards on wages 90 minutes before the strike deadline. So it got pretty tense. They were summoned to the mayor's office across the street to justify what they were trying to do. And fortunately, about 40 minutes later, they came to their senses. We reached a deal, and it was signed off 4 o'clock in the morning. And thanks to all the work that this committee did, the members got what they deserved and more. Two weeks later, at the commission meeting, when the contract was going to be voted on by the city councilors, we got one of the best surprises of this entire campaign when TTC CEO Rick Leary was forced to resign. So that was another victory, although he said he was retiring. But I just want to leave on one last note. This campaign was so successful, and we've been talking about it all week. You know, we put ATU on the map in Canada and the US with all the fights we have. But I'm currently bargaining a contract in Ottawa with our friends right here from 279. And they've done the research. They know what we're capable of. And just 2 weeks ago, the head HR negotiator said to us, we want to reach a deal. We know all about the Fight to Win campaign. We don't want it here in Ottawa. So great job. Thank you, President Costa. Let's keep fighting. Thank you.
So I guess when I gave my speech and I said the ATU is no longer a whisper in our cities, we're a what? Roar. A roar, right. Want to clease it up?
Thank you. Thank you, Manny, IVP Manny, for adding that one aspect about what happened when the city ratified that contract. So our members ratified that contract proudly. And we're at City Hall, I think it was June 21st, when the contract was ratified by the city. So on the agenda, they ratified our contract. The next thing on the agenda, I walked out of the room because they're in camera. Who do I see walking behind me? The CEO, Rick Leary. I thought, aren't you supposed to be in there? Like I didn't know. But I would give everybody some advice why political action matters. I knew, based on what we did and how we were going to act and how we were going to hold politicians accountable, that we were never going to negotiate with them again, and we called a shot. And I want to thank my executive board, our membership, and that mandate, because one of the things we demanded behind the scenes is that we were never going to negotiate with that fucker ever again, Rick Leary. And the next thing on the agenda was him being fired. He didn't resign, we put him on vacation. I want to thank my executive board, I want to thank my membership that we sent him on a vacation. I love you, Boston 589, but the one gift that I don't want is Rick Leary ever again. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so Justin, hear a little bit about the committee. You want to take it over?
Thank you, President Costa. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's amazing to be here. Thank you for this opportunity, President Costa. This panel is really about the nuts and bolts of how all those things went down and how it was achieved, what the day-to-day was like, and what you're going to hear is a lot of the dependable tactics, the strategies, the challenges, and the successes from this committee, so that when you all go back to your local next week, you can turn the place upside down and start winning what you deserve. So, everyone ready to get into it? That's good. Okay. So let's meet the committee. Let's start on this side. My sister right here. Name, how long you've been at the commission, and maybe what mode or job title you have. We'll go down this way, and then we'll go this way.
My name is Grace Udo. I have been with the commission for 21 years. I'm a former shop steward, currently the co-chair of our women's committee. I sit on the political action committee, this job action committee, and our bylaws committee. Oh, and I'm also the only female on the stage, if you guys have known. Oh my gosh. I'm also the International Black Caucus Executive Canadian Rep.
Hey, I'm Dean Johnson, been with the TTC 15 years, shop steward second term. Job Action Committee was one of the best times of my life. I learned a lot, and yeah.
Corey Branch, 15 years, co-chair of ATU Local 113's Political Action Committee.
Hi everyone, my name is Sid Palmer. I'm a 29-year subway operator, 3-term shop steward, and I think I was the senior member of the group, proud to say. And this, my 29 years, this was the best 3 or 4 months I ever spent on the job.
Hello, New York. My name is Amjad Mohammed. I'm an executive board member. Hello? Hi. Hello, New York. I will start. Can you repeat? I'll say local, you say 113. ATU 113. ATU 113. Thank you for that. My name is Amjad Mohammed. I'm executive board member for Local 113 Maintenance. By trade, I'm a body repair person. I repair, paint hundreds of cars, street cars, buses, part of the Job Action Committee, the Political Action Committee, and honored to be here. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Jason Bosco. I have been with the TTC for 25 years, 2-term steward, and currently working as a stockkeeper in the Wilson Car House subway car house. And this has been, again, as everybody has said, a couple of the greatest few months in my career, and what we left for the future, I'm so proud. And I want to thank President Marvin for putting me on this, and also President Costa for helping out with this, because it was one of the best things I've done in my career.
Hello everybody, my name is Hernan Sal, 18 years with TTC, second term shop steward, proud delegate for Latino Caucus, proud delegate to be here. Thank you for everything, Mr. Costa. This has been one of the most craziest experiences ever. None of us really knew each other. We were kind of given a phone call by our president at the time, came again, and asked us if we would help. So we all basically met as strangers, and it was the best thing that's ever happened.
Good afternoon, New York. My name is Derek Arnett. I've been with the TTC, Hello, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh. I'd like to say I've been with the TTC now since about 1996. I started off as a summer student. My family's put in over 200 years service with the ATU. I'll tell you right now, it's a beautiful family. It's always put food in our fridge, a roof over our head, job protection, security, benefits, everything. You know what? I love you guys. You guys are awesome. It's suited my family very well. I was a shop steward for 2 terms, Job Action Committee, and I'm telling you, it's, if you get out there, make sure your boots are on the floor. I was talking to Seattle, if you're out there, you're negotiating, get out there. It is to your benefit. Thank you.
Good afternoon, New York. My name is Danny Nacarado. Been at the TTC, those are my friends, by the way. I've been at the TTC for about 17 years. I'm a first-term shop steward, proudly the co-chair of the Political Action with Corey. Yeah, that's it for me.
Danny.
Mike Pulaski, current board member and former steward, but most proudly 16-year bus driver for the City of Toronto.
Hello everybody, my name is Philip Jules, previous shop steward, 2 terms, 17 years as a coach technician at the commission, and I would have to say of every committee I've ever been on, this was probably the best committee I've ever worked on in my life.
Good morning everybody, my name is Bryce McLeod. I'm in my 2nd term as a shop steward, been with the commission for 7 years. I'm an escalator mechanic and just super proud of all the work that we've done as a committee.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mark Reed, 12-year bus operator, and just super proud of our group. And just want to say thank you to our executive board for trusting in us and standing behind us the whole way and letting us lead it.
Thanks, everyone. So, why don't you describe what the function of the committee was and what really a day for you was like? Bryce, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah, in the beginning, we set up what we call the war room. It was our boardroom at the office. We had maps of the city. We divided the city into zones, identified picket locations. But then once that work was done, daily we would meet there in the morning. But more importantly, we got out on the ground in the afternoon, in the evening, overnight, early the next morning. Organizing the membership, it doesn't happen in the war room, it happens out there on the ground.
Anyone else? What was the day like?
Hello. I will second Bryce. At the maintenance, we have 4 shifts, day shift, afternoon, sunset, night shift. And it's 24-hour operations. So we were out there 24 hours, 7 days a week, talking to members one by one. It's not just the members, you know who pays our bills? It's the public. We were reaching out to the public daily at the bus stops, stations, subways, front of the malls, talking to the public, and we sent thousands of letters from the public to the politicians saying, give the TTC workers a fair contract. So that is the key, and we did create chaos for our management. Thank you.
So, my colleague David Heller, who was on the ground, and thank you David for your work on this campaign, he talks about the war room all the time, still to this day. So, is that something you'd recommend to locals to have in bargaining, and why?
It's a must. You have to be organized, especially with this number of people. You have to know what each other is doing so that you can cover as many places at once without too much overlap, and to keep everybody on the same page. Because the most important thing was getting the same message out to everybody every day.
For me, the war room was more of an opportunity for us to obviously create a plan, because we never had anything. So we literally started from scratch. And as we created the plan, it went up on paper around the whole room. So it was a way for us to keep track of what we were doing. And if you forgot what you were doing, it was a way to go back and remember what you were doing. And as you can see, there's so many of us here on the stage. We all have different ideas. We all have different opinions. So there was a lot of heated conversations. There was a lot of cross conversation. And I think most importantly, we learned that it's not about being right. It was about getting it right. And that was the grounds of what we did in the war room.
So further to what Grace was saying, right? One of the key things we talked about was that egos were checked at the door. This wasn't about us, it wasn't about politics. It was about getting out, talking to the members, engaging them, making sure that the message was clear. And we didn't always agree, right, as a group. But when we left the room, we had consensus what the message was going to be when we got out there. We had those arguments in private. The message when we got out to the members was the same.
Solidarity.
So getting members involved requires communicating a plan to win, an effective plan to win, and doing that individually on a one-on-one basis. So what were those conversations like once you left the war room and you got out there?
That was really tough for me. My area that I work in, is relatively junior, and a lot of younger guys that are trying to buy houses. So they were really worried about, the message was, this is not a bluff. Like, we will do this if we have to. We're fighting for our future. So there was some hard conversations that I had to have with some of my members about expenses and stuff like that. So that was tough. That was definitely tough for sure.
So you gotta be honest with your members, everyone. If you're getting ready to go to war, you're going to war. There's gonna be some casualties in war. It may be our pocketbooks, it may be our benefits for our families, but you need to be honest, and you need to prepare them for the worst case scenario. So honesty definitely is key here. You need to be upfront with them and let them know what we're up against. And that was the point of the war room. We were at war. From when Marvin put this team together, we knew our job was to get everybody ready to go to war. And there was gonna be some casualties. But by the end of it, our members trusted us, trusted our executive board, and trusted our president. So they knew we were on the right track to get the best contract it ever had. So honesty is definitely important when you're speaking to your membership. Don't lie to them. Tell them the truth, let them know what's coming. They'll respect you for it at the end of the day.
To add to what my brother Danny said, a lot of that too pertains to education. Because me, myself, starting in the company, I just came to work, did my job, went home. I never paid much attention to the union until maybe my 8th or 9th year with the job. So like Bryce was saying, a lot of the membership now is under double-digit years. 7, 8 years is kind of the bigger bulk of what we've got. Education is important. Knowledge is power. So for me, I focused on making sure that they knew and were educated on what was happening. And that was how you were able to get them in on wanting to be in the fight. Because with the knowledge they had, they felt like they were strong and that they could be a part of it. There's a lot of members we have that don't really know anything and don't know what's going on, and that's why they don't participate. So one of the key things in bringing them in to participate is making sure that they're aware and they're in full knowledge of what's going on.
From my perspective, being around for quite a few years, and I think at the time it was 75% of our membership had less than 10 years seniority. I was around for, well, I think 2010 we had a strike. We went out on a Friday. The government sat on a Saturday and legislated us back to work. And from that point, we had interest arbitration the whole time. My message to the younger people out there was, you can't afford to not strike. You can't afford to not fight. Because the fight today is for your future. It's not about today, it's about the future, the next generation, and so on. So that was my message to the younger people out there, is we cannot afford not to fight. As hard as it's going to be with this affordability policy.
So effective organizing conversations require answering tough questions, overcoming objections. Tell me about the hardest conversation you had and how you overcame an objection.
One of the hardest conversations was always, I can't afford to strike. And we would get that from the newer generation of members who would come to work, and we understand and I sympathize with them. But my answer was always, I can't afford it either. But I'm here, and I'm here for you. You have to inspire them. You gotta make them realize this is just not a union, it's a family of generation of history of people who fought and died for everything we have now. And that's what you gotta pick them up. You have to inspire them.
Anyone else? What was the toughest question or toughest conversation you had, and how'd you overcome it?
It's a money issue. We all need money. Being on strike, we were preparing the members, please start saving money for the groceries. I have a lot of young members who couldn't even afford diapers, right? And you know the cost of living these days. So that was our biggest challenge, to bring our members to the table saying, okay, let's start saving money. We are here to support you. So we bring them up to the peak and build that power. That's where companies saw the power. They try to discourage them. We were the most hated people at the floor, because we would used to bear up and go each location every day, night. And the management kind of used to spread rumors, oh, it's not gonna happen, this is all fake. And we had to kind of make the membership understand this is real. This is not just for you, like Jason said, this is our future for our kids. Thank you.
So one thing I wanted to touch on is, I mean, we're maintenance and transportation on this table. And there's always been this classic divide of the bus drivers versus the maintenance. And one of the things that we did was we paired up a transportation and a maintenance person when we hit the floor. Because it wasn't about drivers or maintenance. We're all losing our jobs to contracting out. We all gotta stand together and fight for each other. It's not about who's got more numbers and power. It's about being together, 12,000.
Jay, I was going to touch on the same thing Jay said, but we walked the floor together, and we were in a lot of places. We were in some tough places. Like these guys were tough on us, tough on the union, and they were asking us questions that weren't really what we were there to talk about. And you know, we're there on their lunch break, and they're like, "Who are these guys? Right? Who's this operator coming in here?" But we made sure that when we went into bus garages, when we went into subway car houses, there was always one operator, one maintenance rep, and then we could kind of speak the language and talk to people as to what they understood, right? And
Learned, and we both learned.
We all learned. You know, we learned about places we never even knew existed because we have such a huge property, right? 12,500 of us, and spread out on a massive scale. What did we have? 13 strike lines planned? 13 picket lines were planned across the city. But these guys were tough on us, but almost every time when we were done, they came to us and shook our hand and said, thanks for coming out and giving us the news, right? Even if it was news they didn't want, right?
We got them, we went there together and we got them. That's what we did as a committee.
Phil, you and Hernan have a good story about going into one garage.
Go ahead, Phil, the maintenance story?
Yeah, down at the Hillcrest location, it was actually kind of funny watching Hernan because we went through Duncan and Harvey, and he was like a chick in the candy store seeing what maintenance does, how we rip apart the buses and the streetcars, which was cool. We spoke in both those garages. And upstairs, I think we lost count around 120, where we spoke to 120 nitrates. They asked us questions, we both bounced off each other. And it was kind of moving at the end because they actually stood up and gave us a round of applause for coming out and speaking to them, which really touched me. I realized that we're really making a difference here. You know, this is really getting to the membership and their understanding the importance of this.
Just one thing I want to touch on. Money seems to be the most important thing. It is not. Respect and dignity for all workers. Yes. Without that, we've got nothing. Money will come. Respect and dignity must be there, and that's what our members need to understand. Everybody deserves to be respected, and the dignity of our jobs needs to stay intact.
The hardest conversation, the toughest conversation that I had came at the most unexpected time for me. It was at about 12:30 in the morning when we got word that we had a framework of a deal. I was at Greenwood Yard. It's one of our toughest maintenance locations. And that was shutting down. Those guys had started already. The guys that they came in on their off day, they were ready to go on strike. So shutting that down, packing it up, and explaining to guys, we did it. We didn't have to go on strike. We've got a deal. Thankfully, the bargaining committee went and got us a really good contract because those guys would really not like me if we didn't get something good.
So let's talk about that day, the final day, the day before the strike, the deadline's coming. What were you all doing that day?
Yep, so that day there, we had a press conference. Marvin gets up, he does his press conference. Marvin was mad. He was really mad. Marvin's a nice guy, for everybody who knows Marvin. He was mad, and it was noticeable, and everybody noticed. And everybody was there with Marvin, right? All our allies were there.
and it was real. Job Action was ready for a 48-hour swing there. We knew nobody was going home. Everybody took their to-go bags, and we were ready to hit the ground. And so were our members, because picket lines, instead of starting at midnight, picket lines started setting up at 6 p.m. We were ready. The fight was there, and our members showed up in droves. Barbecues, there was a party on all those lines. And that was just the pre-show to the show. So it was real. We were set up, every location. We had everything. We had everything ready for every location. To Marvin's credit at the board, the resources were there. The International was there. Justin, you were there. Dave was there. Eric was there. John was there. Everybody was there.
Sarah.
So Sarah was there. So it was go time for us that morning. We were ready to go. Until Marvin told us to stand down, we were off to the races that morning. We weren't waiting to midnight. We were ready that morning.
One of the most major parts of our job was just building up the threat of the strike, because that is the most important part of the whole process, was creating the threat. And like Danny was saying, that press conference that Marvin did, where he actually did drop the mic, you know, and he had the support of other labor unions in the city of Toronto standing behind him. At that point, if nobody had thought that we were a threat before, they did then.
Yeah, I remember that morning leaving my home, and I was packing a bag of clothes and a little bit of food, and my 6-year-old son was asking, Dada, what happened? Where are you going? And I said, I'm going to fight. And he didn't know what that means. That moment, and my wife said, you know, go get it done. The energy from your family, from your kids, that give you the power. We were sleeping in our cars, we were eating all the junk food, we were caffeined up and everything. But the energy from the workers, when we were pulling the burn barrels out, we were pulling the chairs, the table, we were setting things, that was the real. And I felt it. The buses will come and start honking horns on us, and that gives us the energy. And we see management walking by and wondering what's happening, and they start making calls. 13 of us were on 13 locations. They start calling their bosses, this is real, we're coming for them. That was the moment. I never forget that.
So for a couple weeks leading up to this strike, everywhere I went, I noticed there was a supervisor or there was security, and they were watching us and they were following us around. A little bit of intimidation, a little bit of a lot of things, but we took notice to that. Everywhere we went, they were there. And that day that we were at Wilson, setting up for that strike, they were on the phone, they couldn't figure out what to do. They realized really quickly this was happening. My department head the next day told us they were sitting in the boardroom, they seen us setting up, and they knew it was over. We were gonna shut it down. The city of Toronto was gonna be shut down, and they backed off.
What do you think the impact of this campaign was on the broader labor movement? Derek, and you and I have talked about this.
So the impact there again was, you know, we were successful, plain and simple. People saw what we did. We had our boots on the ground, okay, plain and simple. We meant business. Other locals, Mississauga, for example, they actually started their own job action committee as well, and kudos to them. Other people, you know, came over and you know, said, you know, hey, you guys did a hell of a job. We had a lot of support from the public. It was just amazing. I can't stress enough again, as I said before, like even going to York University, we were on, you know, like we were out of the pickets. We saw how they were doing business, but I'll tell you, this kicked the shit out of everything. This was very, very positive. It was explosive. So again, just going back to what I said earlier, if you are going to negotiation, you got Mr. Costa here who's got your back. I've heard him from this morning. We were there, Florida, you know, we were there. This, I'm telling you, this is the impact. This is what you need. This is what brings all of us together.
So, you know, the classic debrief question after a campaign is, what would you do differently, or what would you do differently next time?
Start earlier. The more time, especially for us, we hadn't done this because we didn't have the right to strike. Start early. Give yourself enough room to, you know, bob and weave with whatever management throws your way. Get your team together, get your war room set up. Start as early as you think the threat is there. Engage the members, off to the races.
The more time you spend in the war room, the less time you're actually out talking to the members, and that's the most important part.
I think I'd even recommend for unions, when you leave here today and you go back, assign 1, maybe 2 people, and just start with a basic plan and put it on paper and sketch a bunch of ideas on paper so that when that moment comes, if it does come, you're not scrambling. You kind of have something to go off of, or to start with, or to follow along with. So don't wait for the threat of the strike. Get proactive and be on it in advance so that you're ready to go and you have more strength and you're more empowered to be successful.
So we didn't have a lot of experience with strikes, but what we did have going on in the city of Toronto at the time is there was a couple of strikes going on. So we went out as a group and we engaged those picket lines and walked with them and saw what they were doing. Justin's old local, I believe, OPSU. Afterwards, and here's a funny story too, my son is a steward. He's 24 years old. He works for OPSU, and the liquor store workers went on strike after we had settled. And I engaged my fellow people on the committee here, and I said, well, we didn't get to walk our picket line. How'd you like to come out and walk with my son? We're going to shut down a warehouse for the liquor store workers. And with Marvin's support, we did. Yeah, that was great. So some of us did get to walk, but learn from your brothers and sisters in labor. If you haven't had a strike in a while, I think that was one thing that really helped us.
There's always someone on strike, guys. There's always someone on strike, right? The boss is always attacking somebody. So we found places to go and bring ATU to that front line. And I believe some of the things that we did, like we had Laura here, incredible. When we're standing together, especially City of Toronto right now, there's a lot of positivity with this union. So I appreciate it.
We have to wrap because there's more proceedings to get to. So I'm going to pass it back to President Costa. But before we do, I think the committee wanted to give a gift to President Costa.
John, we've been watching you all week. You came down to Canada to our shop steward training. You're always dressed so well. But the one thing missing from your closet was one of these shirts. So we thought we'd bring one down.
What's that say? I can't hear you. United to win. United to win. Listen, when I first heard this, I was really impressed. Is this impressive? Yeah. Should be. And you know, I had the opportunity to do campaigns myself under Larry. I think Larry taught us a lot about. I remember I used to say, you know, I used to call him up. You know, we need a campaign. We gotta organize. We're gonna go on strike. We're gonna do this, you know, next week. And so that's not how you organize. You don't organize in a week. You know, you got to take time. You got to build a campaign. And so, looking at what you said, like we all know, maintenance and operations is always, you know, it's not united. We have a problem there. It's gotten better. But what you did, and that's what we did in St. Louis. I mean, when we had to go and we had a campaign when they didn't have a contract for what, 5-6 years, we did a campaign where we went to the floor and one-on-one, we talked to all the members, and they were pissed. A lot of them were very unhappy with our union and the leadership there, but we turned it around, you know, and we went out there one-on-one and sat with them. So it was really smart that you did bus operator and maintenance, because that's what we did. We had to go there with both and work it. And time. You know your negotiations, right? It's coming up. Start your campaign. We always seem to think we're going to get a deal, right? So we're going to go there, no problem, we sit down, and then before you know it, a year has gone by. You have no contract. The members are all pissed off, right? And then all this shit happens. And then we're running around trying to figure out what we're going to do. So having a campaign and building a campaign is nothing wrong with it. Having your members involved in your negotiations, nothing wrong with it. I'm a firm believer of open negotiations, you know that. I like inviting the members to negotiations. When I first came in, it was like, it's a blackout in negotiations, you couldn't talk about it. So I'd be leaving from maintenance and walking out, and all the guys are out there, what's going on? Oh, we can't talk about it. I mean, that's, I don't know about you, but that's like stupid. I mean, like, members are there on fire, hungry, and we're not telling them nothing. In the meantime, we go back and we find out on the floor, the management's telling them everything, right? So they got the narrative, they're telling you they're telling your members what we're not doing, they're telling your members we suck, your union sucks, you want to get another suck, and then you wind up, we got deserts and everything else, right? So why not take the initiative and go there? Why not invite your members in and let them? One of my biggest negotiations was in Pennsylvania, Latrobe. I was asked to do a school bus contract, and I never did one. And when I got there, I was like, Larry, put me in a school bus. I mean, Richard Murphy was up there. I actually called you, Richard. I think you went where, Frank and something, Frankville or something, because he did them. And the company was like giving nothing, like offering 0.5% they started with. So I went to the union meeting, and I used to believe at least having contract updates. So when I went there, I would always play with the company when I was there, 2 days of negotiations and an update, and then we go back to negotiations. So they knew we were at least informing the members. And one of the members stood up and he said to me, Costa, is there anything we can do to help you in these negotiations? And they hit me right there that it was August. And they were off, right? They were doing some school bus, like, charter work for games and stuff, but they were off. And I realized, you guys are all off, right? Yeah. I said, yeah, you can do something. Can you report to the Marriott Hotel tomorrow and join us in negotiations? So I went there, I didn't know who was going to show up. I opened the door, there's like 30, 40 members that come downstairs, the elevator opens up, sitting there waiting for us. So we go in a room, I put the tables around, the company right away turns around and says, oh, they can't be there. I said, the fuck they can't. I said, I can bring anybody I want to negotiate. I said, if you got a problem, put on fair labor practices. And in Pennsylvania, they got a mediator, right? So the mediator says, yeah, you can do that. Bring anybody I want in there. They're expert in witnesses. And the sharp-ass lawyer that was there that wouldn't shut up and talk quicker than me, right, for the last 2 days, I turned around and said, all right, where we had negotiations on economics, I want to know what the proposal was on, and they said, and the guys look, and I said, well, I want you to tell your workers, my members, what they're worth. And he sat there, and it was like 30 seconds, and 30 seconds is a long time. He said a freaking word. And then he goes, 1.5%. So 1.5%? I said, well, as much as I might like you, as much as I might want to give you that 1.5%, I got a problem. I don't have to make that decision. They vote on this contract. So let's ask them how they feel about 1.5%. Your workers, my members, how do you feel about 1.5%? And everybody said, no. And of course we have to be polite, because if you're not polite in open negotiations, then they're going to say you're too hostile or nervous, and we feel unsafe and harassed. So they said no. And the funny thing happened that day. We wound up selling that contract. And I think we might have got 3.5% or something like that. But the members were happy. We settled it that day, and it was all because they were there. And we took the narrative out, and they saw the power in numbers and united. So that's what you did here. You built power, right? You united. Our voice, power. So I was very impressed with what you did. I thought this would be a good thing to bring to the convention and talk about. It made me feel good. And what do you think? So, with that, we have a gift. I have a I didn't look, Danny, I didn't look in your closet to see what you had. But you know what? I think we got a bunch of nice big ATU blankets, and you're getting old, so we could probably use one of them to keep warm right on the way back. So let's give everybody, that's we have the blankets. Yeah, we got a bunch of ATU beautiful blankets, and we want to give one to everybody, all right? And not Marvin, because he's the president. We want to give it to you guys. You did the work. Marvin, come on, you can get one too. Thank you. Thank you. Nice work. Thank you. Let's give it up. Thank you.